You're listening to the WCHE Morning Show on 95.3 WCHE.
And welcome back to the WCHE Morning Show. I'm Eric Lambera. Co-host today is Steve Foose. Joining us, we have two guests in studio that are involved in the East Whiteland Data Center project. You more than likely heard about this, and our next two guests are going to tell us even more. Ginny Kerslake is a West Whiteland resident and Food and Water Watch Pennsylvania organizer. Also joining us here in the studio, we have Andy Schneider. He's an attorney who was inspired by his neighbors to stop this time bomb from landing in Chester County without proper research-based ordinances. He's joining us unofficially to add a legal and other perspective to this project. Welcome to the both of you, and thank you guys for joining us today.
Thanks, Eric.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yep, we appreciate your time. So let's dive into things right here. So there's, of course, a lot going on with this. And so, Ginny, the first question I have for you is, what exactly is a data center, and why are we hearing so much about them right now, especially in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, well, right from the start, data center is basically, you could think of it as a large warehouse type of structure. I mean, that's pretty much what it looks like. And it's filled with computer equipment, servers, and it's where data is processed. And then you'll have other equipment alongside of that, lots of cooling equipment. You'll have backup power generators, like industrial ones. And we are seeing this right now in across Pennsylvania because there's a push by the tech industry and by the energy industry to do this massive build out across Pennsylvania of what's called hyperscale data centers. So not what we're used to, these massive structures, for a so-called AI revolution. And we're really being targeted here in Pennsylvania, perhaps the most of any state.
Right. Now, in this case here, 1.7 million square feet, what does that really mean for the community as a whole?
Well, there are a lot of impacts that come with this. These facilities are high energy users, so we don't have a strong number yet, do we, Andy, on how much energy this will use? But in past applications and some conversations I had with a reporter from the Philadelphia Inquirer a few years ago, this project would make this data center the second largest customer for PECO after the city of Philadelphia. But we're looking at, on the order of hundreds of megawatts of power, and that's hundreds of thousands of households. So that's number one. Number two, there are high water consumers. We're not sure about the cooling necessarily that's going to happen here, but these projects can use up to millions of gallons of water per day. We're concerned about quality of life and place impacts. So if you live close enough to one of these centers, and by close enough, it could be like a mile or more. And certainly there are neighborhoods right across the road. There is a very low frequency, constant, like 24/7 hum that comes from these facilities that impacts your well-being and mental health. I could go on about the impacts. Another big one is these backup generators. This applicant is now proposing 1.7 million square feet. With that comes 68 industrial generators. And so when there's brownouts or blackouts, those will be running. And they will be very loud. They also have to be regularly tested. And the frequency of the testing and the number of generators, they're looking at an average of about 1.5 hours per day, where 2 of these would be running.
Well, that was going to be my next question. So the 68 generators, and if you want to expand a little bit more, just how often they're going to be running under what conditions? Yeah,
so again, these backup generators are there for when they're required, because this project is looking to pull their power off the grid, a grid that is already strained. And everybody out there has probably noticed that their electricity bill has been increasing, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody's talking about that. And now PECO has put in for another double-digit increase.
Like 12%, right?
Yeah, 12%. That is largely driven by these data centers. We are on the same grid, the PJM grid, as Virginia. And Virginia has seen what we're experiencing or about to experience in Pennsylvania. They've already seen, to a lesser extent of what's proposed here. In Virginia, we are paying the cost of all those data centers. These price increases are also based on projections. So our prices are going up because of these proposed projects. So back to the generators, these facilities have to be running 24/7. Their customers depend on it. So if they have to, they'll have to turn on these generators. They will be diesel generators. This project is proposing these huge reservoirs of diesel fuel to be stored underground on site. So that's another issue. And then there's all the emissions. In addition to the sound that comes from these industrial generators, there are all the emissions that come with that as well.
Now, we'll dive into the meeting, which is going to be coming up on the 14th in a moment, but I wanted to turn it over to Andy for a second, and glad to have you here on board. And Andy, you said that your neighbors have inspired you in your case. What were you hearing from people around you that made this issue feel particularly urgent?
Well, the first thing I want to say is thank you to people like Ginny and my neighbors who have been paying attention. And so many of us have not been paying attention. A couple neighbors on my street who know I'm an attorney came to me and said, "Hey, Andy, is there anything you can do about this?" And I said, this is not my lane. This would be like asking a doctor, right, who works on feet to do something on the brain. Mm-hmm. It just doesn't work that way in the law. So they asked me to go to a meeting, and I went there, and the very first meeting just didn't sit right with me. The way our government was treating us felt wrong.
How so?
They didn't want us even to be in the room. We went there, and we overcrowded the room.
Yeah. And
they they said aggressively, "Can some of you just leave the room so we can proceed with this meeting?" And then the town.
Why were they asking you to leave the meeting?
Because they didn't want to hear from us. They didn't want to have to answer questions.
All right, so just from the fact of there was so many people in there, or were people being rowdy and talking over other people or things like that? I'm trying to think of, hey, why would I ask if a bunch of people come in and I am representative of you, my constituency, right? And then you come into this meeting, why would I ask a bunch of people to leave? I would want to hear from more. I would think I would welcome. I want to hear what do we want, what don't we want.
The problem with that meeting, too, was that apparently the fire marshal noticed that we had overflowed the capacity of the room. So that's also why we had to leave. But it's a good point to make.
That sounds like a safety issue. I'm just going to cut you off real quick, otherwise I'll forget.
Yes. No, it was a safety issue.
It sounds like a safety issue, but this is how we kind of play this little game, right, of how we keep if I want to stack the deck in my favor, I don't really want to. What I always think of when I hear about these big meetings is I think of, have you ever seen the show Parks and Recreation, Andy?
Yes.
And you see how Leslie Knope gets up there, and then people are they come up with tell me about the UFO. They get real wacky. So, and then nothing's getting done. And that, while we want to hear from the constituency, people can often then go off on the wrong foot. So
that's not where I got inspired yet.
Yeah.
At this point,
but all these people are coming in, and everybody, and they should be heard. And I applaud all these people. Like, you should be involved. This is how we make change. So this is cool.
Yeah. And so the way the leader, the commissioner, was just catering to the developer and not us struck me as odd.
That's what you saw.
And then as they were trying to figure out a solution for the overcrowding. The solicitor essentially stood up and said, "Hey, people, this is happening whether you like it or not."
Ooh, yeah. I never. Boy, you know what that sounds like? That sounds like I don't know. What's the governmental? I don't want to say tyrannical. Fascism, is that a word?
Authoritarian.
Authoritarian. There you go. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
So that meeting got continued, and
I don't like to hear that.
Allowed the opportunity to have everybody attend.
This is happening whether you like it or not. See, that really puts a...
That wasn't a literal quote. That was the gist of it.
I gotcha.
And that gave the opportunity for people like Ginny and my neighbors to rally the troops.
Sure.
And I went to that next meeting, and I sat in the very last row, like the kid in study hall who just was there for the entertainment. And I honestly thought it was going to be what you referenced, a bunch of people screaming and pounding on the desk, saying, "I don't want this, I don't want this."
wacky.
And it was not that.
Okay.
And that's when I was inspired. I had really smart, competent, educated, informed people politely explaining the situation. And they just laid it out so clearly. And they had everything in place except for a litigator. And I don't litigate in this arena, but there was enough there that said nobody's stepping up to do the legal stuff.
Yeah.
It's not my arena, but I'm going to give it a shot.
Well, right.
This is too important not to.
So earlier we had Downingtown John, we call him. He's John. He is an educator in the city of Philadelphia, but he lives in Downingtown, and he often brings up these points of things. And that is a major point that he has brought up, that we know, the township comes in and, it's the township, right? And then I have this big company coming in. What is the name of the company that wants this data center, by the way?
Sentinel Green Fig LLC.
Sentinel Green Fig LLC. Are they connect? A lot of times there's like a company inside of a company inside of a company. I'm sure you've probably done a little digging. What does that look like?
There have been multiple iterations of similar people involved. It started with Whiteland Holdings, evolved to Green Fig Land.
Yeah.
There's now Sentinel Green Fig. There's also a sub-entity of Sentinel Green Fig 2.
Right.
And I think the latest iterations came when Wall Street money showed up.
So let me ask you a question. For the average Joe Blow like me, why would a company do all that? Why go, hey, we're Steve's data center. We want to build a data center here. Now it's Steve and Eric's data center. Now we're going to call it something else. Why, from a legal perspective? Can you shine any light on that? Or
definitely not my wheelhouse, but you see this everywhere.
Okay.
It's about, I don't want to be too judgmental, but it's about not letting everybody know where the money's coming from.
Not transparency.
That's how I take it.
Okay. That's how that's what it sounds like to me, but I don't know. Maybe it's protective. I know the difference between, hey, it's Steve Wakefoot's company versus, Steve's LLC. They can't come after me personally. You're coming after another company, et cetera, whatever. So anyway, you brought up some good points, and what John had said was right. There's they're going to bring in the big time lawyer, man. They're going to have the Johnny Cochran team, everybody coming in, and then who do we have representing us? And it looks like you got the hat.
Yeah, well, I filed a land use appeal, and they have 5 attorneys from 2 law firms. So there you go.
All right.
And so jumping into you just discussed the last meeting. Now I wanted to move over, of course, to next Tuesday, the April 14th meeting. I'll go back to Ginny here. What is the significance of this meeting? Is there anything that can still be changed at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. So next Tuesday, that's April 14th at 6 p.m., the Board of Supervisors for East Whiteland Township will be holding a special meeting to consider this application. And I don't know if they'll be making a decision that night, but I think they have their extended deadline is the end of May. So we could see a second meeting, but definitely April 14th is a big night. The East Whiteland Board of Supervisors are the decision makers. They're the ones who say yes or no on this amended application, as the applicant is calling it, to increase the size of this data center project, which never got started. What happened prior, the other meetings that Andy was talking about, those were before the Planning Commission. And the Planning Commission at the township level and the county level, they just make recommendations. They don't make the decisions. So, yeah, April 14th is a big night. It's also going to be held at Penn State Great Valley campus instead of at the township building, because that doesn't even hold 100 people. At the Planning Commission meeting at Great Valley Penn State Great Valley, I think the capacity is just over 400, and we filled it. So we're expecting another big turnout for that. And
so that's going to be 30 East Sweetsford Road in Malvern, just for the listeners there. And it's available if you're unable to attend. You're able to do it via Zoom. Is that
yes, correct? If you go to the East Whiteland Township website, there is somewhere in there. If it's not there yet, it will be there before the meeting, how you can attend by Zoom. You cannot, if you're in person, you'll have the opportunity to give public comment, and that's very important. Andy already talked about how effective it was in convincing him. We hope to convince the Board of Supervisors. If you can't attend in person, or you don't want to speak publicly, you also have the option of submitting written comments by Friday, tomorrow, to the township, and information about that is also on the website.
So really, like, time is of the essence here. We don't have a lot of time. So if you want to be heard, you can write in these comments, and that goes to where? Email written comments and questions should be sent to publiccomment@eastwhiteland.org or publiccomment@eastwhiteland.org, or to the supervisors directly. Wow, we've got a whole bunch here. And they're all found. Their emails, I guess you can find on their website at eastwhiteland.org. Is that correct?
Yes.
We also have a petition that's been circulated for the past few weeks. And, we're over 2,000 signatures on that. And every day there seems to be like 100 more. So there'll be a lot of people can voice their opposition to this that way as well, and it will be submitted at the meeting to the Board of Supervisors, urging them to vote no on this.
Now, as far as the petition, is there a website for that? How can people, if people are interested in signing that petition?
There's not a website. They can.
So it looks like you have a document up there. We could share that on our social media.
That would be great.
If anybody is, you don't have to be tech savvy, but it's sites.google.com/view/no data center. Or you probably have a link to that on the Instagram. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so here's the easy way. Go on to Instagram, stopdatacenter.pa. And I'm sure there's a link to that petition, then you can sign. We'll try and share that on our social media today for you guys.
We'll get that up.
Eric, can I add one thing to what Ginny said about submitting comments and the opportunity to speak? I want to emphasize and recognize there are plenty of people who are not comfortable writing things in. They're not comfortable getting up and speaking. I want to encourage those people to come be a body in a seat, because you're a voter and your vote counts just as much as the big mouths.
Well, that was going to be my next question. Like, if someone can't speak at the meeting, simply being there makes a difference, right?
That's what we want. That's why I am here to beg,
100%.
plead for people to come and just be present.
I welcome you. I mean, I would welcome somebody from the other side, too, if they wanted to come in. The problem is, people are, I don't want to, they don't think their voice is important, or they're uncomfortable. But I got to tell you, then be uncomfortable complaining later. Like, you can't have it both ways. You need to get up. We do uncomfortable things. This is part of what makes society great, is you have a voice. And I feel like we've seen this hugely. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole here, but we have given away our power to things that people that we trust, that we hope are acting in our best faith. And we've been let down. This isn't the first time you're let down on something. And so the only thing of that is taking back this power. Like, these people, government supervisors, the government in general, they work for us. They're our representatives. We shouldn't be kowtowing to them. They are not our Lord Liege, who have been divinely, created to be our leaders. We have voted these people in, and when we don't like their job or what they're doing for us, we need to speak up.
I do like to consider both sides, and the one thing we have to remember, that a lot of these people in our local governments are donating time. And one of my bigger concerns is the consultants, advisors, attorneys that they lean on, who are a part of the problem.
How so?
I'd like to add one thing, if I can, for people listening out there who aren't aware of this project and where it is. So this is on Sweetsford Road in East Whiteland Township. It's across the road from the Malvern Hunt neighborhood. It is very close to the Exton Park, and the Chester Valley Trail runs right along the northern boundary of this property. So this doesn't just, in quotation marks, impact people living in those neighborhoods or even people in East Whiteland. It's also West Whiteland. It's everybody who enjoys Exton Park and the Chester Valley Trail. Your voices are important, so feel free to send those comments in and participate anyway. Sign the petition. This impacts a lot of people.
It's even closer to the Backton Hill Park.
Oh, and the Backton Hill Park.
And the daycare and the child dance center.
And the Church Farm School.
And you mentioned the impact, and I know we've gotten your perspective on that. Now, what are residents? What have some of the voices in the community, their biggest fears or concerns? What's some of the reaction you've gotten?
Well, definitely the noise, the light pollution. Big thing is property values.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people, their biggest investment is their home, and this would have a huge impact on that. Nobody wants to buy a house that's across the road from a 1 million or 1.7 million square foot data center. People are becoming increasingly aware of what the impacts of these facilities would be to their quality of life in place.
The other thing to consider is we don't know what is going to come out of those cooling systems. When we asked them at the last meeting, they said, "Oh, it's non-toxic," and they were not willing to really tell us what it was.
Oh, they're kind of vague.
And so one of the letters I sent to the Board of Supervisors explained that when I was a young attorney, the firm I was working for sued people who caused brain injuries. And these Board of Supervisors might be approving this thing now, and in 5 years we have all these kids with injuries from these toxins that are coming from this mega supercenter that we don't know enough about.
And now, question, another one I had here, and we appreciate your time this morning. We have a couple minutes left. What, as far as the people who would say that this brings jobs to the community, how would you address them in this situation?
Yeah, that's an easy one. We actually have hard numbers for this project. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we keep hearing jobs. Yes, there will be lots of jobs in Pennsylvania for the construction of these facilities. But once they're built, these are notoriously low employers. Mm-hmm. This developer has submitted a fiscal impact study for this project. So we have the hard number right from the developer. This facility would only create 30 permanent jobs. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those would be, you know, security, maintenance kind of stuff. So,
right.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Right.
These things are takeaway job centers.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, though that's true. Like these are not job creators. This whole AI revolution is designed in large part to take away jobs across multiple industries and sectors. I mean, that is one of the big societal concerns of what's being pushed by big tech.
Right, and especially like you mentioned, the 1.6 million square feet for that size to create 30 jobs. Mm-hmm. I can definitely see, you know, the point there.
And somebody, again, smarter than me, likened that to, when you stack it on top of each other, 390 football fields. Is that right?
Yeah, I forget the exact number, but the scale of this is huge. Yeah. It's a two-story. There are two-story buildings, equaling almost 1.7 million.
Yeah, and I think that really puts it in perspective as far as the football fields.
Don't quote me on that.
Right. Well, still,
it's really big.
Right. Now, just a wrap-up question. Again, really appreciate your guys' time this morning. Did you want to just reiterate the time and place for the meeting and where our listeners can go to learn more and get involved?
My thing that I want to reiterate is show up. Mm-hmm. Ginny's better with the details.
Yeah, so Tuesday, April 14th at 6 p.m. at Penn State Great Valley Campus on Sweetsford Road will be the Board of Supervisors meeting. Show up there if you can. Submit a comment to the East Whiteland Township supervisors in advance by Friday if you can. That's tomorrow. Sign the petition. And as Steve already said, you guys are going to put that up on social media, all those links. Yep. People can go to your website and figure that out.
Yep. Easy landmarks in Malvern, Chickies and Pete's, or the Desmond.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
It's near that, in those places.
Vicinity, yep.
I also think there's a restaurant in Fraser, Dixie's Picnic. I think they might have a copy of the petition.
That's at the Fraser... the Lincoln Court Shopping Center, not where the hearing will be, though.
Yes. Right. Oh, yes. Don't go there for the hearing. Maybe go there for a sandwich and sign a petition.
Right. And the hearing, 30 East Sweetsford Road, that's going to be 6 o'clock, and you can attend in person. You encourage in person, but also Zoom as well. And anything else to add before we close here? Closing message?
Thanks for giving us an opportunity to spread this word.
Yeah, I guess I would just add so I've been working on this issue across Pennsylvania for the past year, and what I am seeing over and over again is people showing up in record numbers night after night. We're seeing it right here in East Whiteland. And in my 10 years of organizing, I've never seen anything like that. And it's across the political spectrum. It's not often these days that we agree on everything, but We're agreeing that that these are bad for multiple reasons. And we need to hit a big pause on it. Senator Katie Muth, who's one of our state senators from Chester County, is introducing a bill out of Harrisburg for a 3-year moratorium on data centers to give municipalities and the state time to put protections and regulations in place, because right now it's just industry run amok.
I know you're running low on time, but real quick, most of us involved understand that we need to stay up with the world, and we need data centers. We just don't need them in our backyards. We have plenty of real estate in this country where we can put data centers.
Right. I think that's a fair point, and I think the residents share that view as well. So, Ginny and Andy, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to invite you guys back after the meeting. Maybe you can give us a recap. You don't even, if you can't make it in person, you could always call in. Because I think that is a missing piece in the follow-up of all right, well, what happened? And then maybe what's next?
Right. We'll be happy to share a victory story with you.
We appreciate it, and we would definitely welcome that. Thank you guys so much for coming on this morning. Listeners, we are going to take a break, and we'll have much more on the other side, so stick around, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to the WCHE Morning Show on 95.3 WCHE.